guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. I'm out on the streets of downtown today. Now I did come out yesterday and it absolutely poured down. Now I did take a couple of images, so I'm going to revisit those compositions because I was pleased with the images when I looked at them when I got back, and it's a good example of what I'm wanting to go for today. Now I'm out with the 14mm today. I want to make use of it. You'll remember I used it for the stairway in my last video. It really made for a great shot. It pushed the stairway further back because of that wider focal length, and because I got low down to the ground, it exaggerated the foreground at the same time. So that's given us a taste of what I want to try today. I want to try some low down street level stuff. I want to include more of the structures. The weather today is a lot better than it was yesterday. We're getting some lovely contrasts, some highlights, some dark shadows. So I think I'll be able to create some nice black and white images. So that's what I'm going for, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's video. We're still getting some of that sunshine, so enjoying the sunshine today, considering all that rainfall that we got yesterday. Now I am going to walk to those compositions that I took yesterday and talk you through them, and along with the images. Now the area in front of us, you'll be able to see we've got some of the light reflecting off the glass that's behind us, and it's actually reflecting down on towards where the crossing is. So what I want to do is I want to actually capture the subject as they pass through that light, and I think it'll make for the great black and white. Now I'm focusing directly on that area at 5.6. It's giving us a nice quick shutter speed, and I'm going to include the buildings to the left hand side where the glass leans over, but I'm also going to include part of the bridge. So I'm framing the edge of the scene with parts of the structures of the buildings. So I'm going to be shooting this shot at 5.6, and because I'm using that wider focal length at 14mm, there's going to be a lot more in focus than there would say if I was using the 50mm or the 85mm, because it's such a wider focal length. More of this shot's going to be in focus at 5.6. I'm shooting at ISO 250 just to quicken that shutter speed a little bit, because I want the subject nice and sharp, and we'll see how we get on. So I'm going to get back, get this shot, and I hope you like it. So I'm actually revisiting a composition that I looked at yesterday before we got all that rainfall. We've lost that light for the time being, but it'll still work for the shot. We still get light from time to time, so it's not too bad. But you'll be able to see this piece of artwork that we've got here behind us, and there's some lovely swirly patterns there. And what I particularly like is the way we've got the highlights in the centre. You'll be able to see all those highlights within the swirly patterns, and I love the way it leads in from the left hand side. You've got the swirly patterns and it leads off to the right hand side. So what I want to do differently today, I want to try and capture another shot. I want to get a bit closer with the 14mm and fill it with all that interest, so you're not going to see the outer edges, you're just going to see the centre of these swirly patterns. Now what I've got to be aware of, there's actually gaps. If you get on the wrong angle, you can see the gaps between those swirly patterns, and I want it to be continuous throughout. I just want the highlighted areas and the dark areas that's created with them swirls. So I don't want to be able to see any of the edges creeping through. So I'm really filling the frame with interest. So all I've got to do is wait for the subject to walk past. Just focus in the centre because that's where the subject's going to be walking, and grab the image. Now it made for a nice black and white yesterday. There was some moisture in there, there was some puddles in the centre which helped capture some of those highlights and draw your eye through those swirls. So we've lost a lot of that light that we were enjoying earlier on, but I managed to capture a couple of images while we did have that light. Now the first shot that I took with the guy on the motorbike, it'd been much better if it had someone in brighter clothing, maybe wearing white, and they wouldn't blend in with that surrounding background as much. But being able to include the buildings around the edges and have the motorbike in the centre just going through that light, it still worked as a shot. Now as I walked around, I came across a lot of characters on the street, and it's always nice to get up close to characters and capture them doing interesting things. Now I said in my last video about being aware of your surroundings, your framing. Now one of the shots that you'll have seen, I actually got two people who were vlogging at the time. They had some lovely bright clothing on, but there was also a sign in the centre of those two people pointing in the same direction, so there's a connection there. Now you'll remember in the previous video that I said that I've still got the A7R3. Now I've actually brought that along today, so it means I've got two cameras. Now the A7R3's got the 35mm on, and the A7R4's got the 14mm on, so it gives us a choice while I'm walking about. I don't have to swap out lenses, because swapping out lenses on the street can be a bit difficult at times. There's a lot of people about, so that's the reason why I brought both those cameras today. And I can get a different look as I walk around. If I want to really get close to a subject, I can put the 35 on. If I've got an interesting background or want to get down really low to foregrounds, I can use the A7R4 with the 14mm. So I've came to a location where I was the other day where I captured an image using the 14mm. The other day it was a lot wetter, we had rainy weather, damp conditions, so it made for a different scene to what I'm looking at today. You know, we had some nice highlights on the seating area where I'm sitting, and we had the buildings in the background, and I just used the steps that I'm sitting on as a leading line towards the subject that was sitting there. Now the subject that was sitting there was sitting having a vape, so I waited till he'd had a puff on his vape and blow the smoke out and capture the shot. And I was really pleased with how the image looked. Now because it was wet yesterday, we had a lot more highlights. There was a lot more going on in the image because those steps created leading lines, but also the lighting hitting them damp flooring there, that created leading lines in itself over towards the guy. Now what I want to do different today is, because we have got dry conditions, I'm going to use the 35mm. Now to my right hand side there's a guy sitting down, he's sitting on his phone, and he's sitting on the same seating area where I was. So it's a great location because you can just sit alongside subjects, wait till they're not looking at the camera and turn around and get the shot. Now I'm going to use the steps as a leading line, get down really low with the camera and face the subject side on. Now there's a bit of walling behind him, and it's a nice bit of blank space to place the guy. I said to you last time, if you can place subjects in clean areas they stand out a lot more. Now using the 35mm is going to allow us to get in a lot closer without getting too close to the subject themselves. So I'm making sure just that the guy doesn't come out of that area, out of that blank space, so he stands out. And then you're just going to see some of the buildings to the left hand side, but I think it'll make for a great image and it'll be a good comparison to the shot I got the other day. So I'm going to get back, get this shot, and I hope you like it. Well, I guess I should welcome you back. It is a totally different day. Now, the other day was great. I was pleased with the images that I came up with, but the weather didn't get any better. It didn't improve and I wasn't feeling inspired. Now, I did carry my wander along the streets and I was taking reactive shots as I went along. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to head back home and come out a different day when the light's a little bit better. Now, this morning all it's done is rain, unfortunately, but it has dried up and we are getting patches of light, so I'm hopeful that we can try for some more images, so that's what I'm going to do. I came in off the street there and I've headed to a place in a location where you go for the train. Now, just off to the right hand side as you're going into the train station, there's this area here that leads to the shops just above there to my left hand side. Now, in the area itself there's some lovely like brass handrails here, but there's also some nice lighting. So what I'm wanting to do is I want to actually capture a subject coming either from or going to that store that you can see on the left hand side. I want to actually get the camera right down low towards the handrails there and shoot upwards and capture a subject over to the left hand side. And it's going to be as simple as that. Now, I'm going to be shooting at 5.6 and I'm going to be focusing at the top of the stairs where the subject's going to be coming out. So the foreground's going to be nice and soft and gradually it'll get sharper as you get towards the background where all the interest is. And I think it just creates a nice leading line. We've got these nice lampshades at the top of the stairway and they're casting the shadows and some nice light on the ceiling above. So that's all going to add to the interest at the top of the stairway when I capture the subject coming out the store. Because there's plenty of darks there and lights and not a lot of colour, I think it will make for a great black and white. So I've just stopped at this location here. I've just stopped for my coffee. I'm going to have a coffee and a sit down. But I've came to this seating area here, and it's got a expansive window in front of us, and I can just watch people going back and forward. It's great. Where I'm sitting, it's really bright. We've got some light in there, but there's quite a bit of ambient light coming in as well because of all the glass. Now what I've noticed is on the street out in front there, every now and again you get people standing still because there's a couple of bus stops there. So what I want to do is I just want to sit here. Now I'm going to be shooting at 1/5 of a second. Now I'm going to use the armrest. I've got the armrest of a chair here to lean on, and that's going to aid me balance. But I have got a couple of tripods with us today. I could get the tripod out, but it's a nice way of showing you just by sitting inside a restaurant or somewhere like that. People will think you're just checking the images on your camera itself. So I'm still finishing this coffee. I tried for a couple of images with inside that cafe, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they look when I get back. Now what I actually done was I went outside and I swapped the cameras. I swapped for the A7R3 with the 35mm on, and I tried for the shot on the street using part of the cafe and the roofing and then just the pavement to the right hand side, and simply wait for the subject to walk into the shot. Now I've came a bit further along. We still haven't got great light, but I've came across a subject standing next to a bus stop here. Now the reason this composition and the image struck us from the other side of the street is the guy's reading a book, but the billboard next to where he's leaning is advertising glasses. So that's how my mind's working, because you've got the sign for the glasses and the guy's reading a book. That's why I think the image stood out for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get settled down. I'm going to take it from street level, so I'm going to get low down and try and grab a shot, and then we'll continue our walk here around downtown. So I'm at a location that I've passed a number of times while I've been out doing street photography, and I've always been intrigued by these bike racks that we've got here to the left hand side. Now because I've got that 14mm, that wider focal length, I want to try and incorporate a subject within these shapes themselves. Now to get that shot I'm going to have to get low to the floor, and it's going to be a case of trial and error till I get the subject where I want the subject within these shapes themselves. Now I'm going to get a little bit further back, and I'm going to use two of these bike racks, get really low down with the camera, and I'm going to manual focus onto the pavement itself. Now it is quite overcast today, so it's quite dark, so I'm going to be using a higher ISO, probably around about 500. Now because timing's important with this shot, I'm going to do it on a high speed burst to edge my bets and get the subject walking through the shot where I want the subject to walk. Now a lot of the time I just use single shot. I find that single shot, it's a bit more of an achievement when you do get the shot, so I don't like to rely on high speed bursts, but for this shot I'm going to use it. So I'm going to get back, get this shot and see how it works out. Well, the wind's picked up and it's decided to start raining. I've just been slowly making my way around the streets now. Because we've lost that light, I'm not sure I'm going to get any more images today, but we've got a load. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. You know, we got some the other day and we've got some today, and trying those different focal lengths. We tried 35mm, we tried 14mm, but tried it in a different way. Got lower down to the ground, got more at street level to come away with a total different image to what you would capture if you took it at head height. Getting close to foregrounds, really emphasising foregrounds with that wide focal length, and getting a little bit closer in with the 35. Now in my next video I'm probably going to be back out doing some landscape photography. It's been some time, but I hope you've enjoyed the series of street photography videos I've been able to bring you. They've been a joy to do, and I hope you can take something away from them. So get out on the streets, try out your skills and give it a go. So I'm going to call it a day from here in downtown Vancouver. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, let us know your thoughts on the images, and I'm sure we've got a bag full. But from me in downtown Vancouver, until next time, thanks for watching, bye bye.